Hello guys and gals, and welcome. Welcome. So I haven't really done this video. I've been playing the season for like 30 some odd days, and I probably could have done this video sooner, but I'm gonna do a State of Path of Exile 2 video. This is an interesting video for me because I would definitely say that this season, 0.50, the season of the no new class, and everybody was upset about it. Honestly, I think zero point 0.5, or we're up to like 0.54B or something like that now, is unequivocally, in my opinion, the best season, or rather, like, it doesn't really matter which term you use, but league, season, they're all interchangeable. Ever, right? It's literally the best season ever, in my opinion. Like, I know I'm prefacing the entire state of the Path of Exile 2 with, like, best season ever, but it really was. Like, I really think this league has been the best season, and I'm gonna go over like what I think about the season and why I think it's the best season ever, in many different ways. Now, a lot of the stuff that has been fixed was fixed in previous seasons. Like, like the armor layer was fixed by adding in like armor applies to elemental damage. That they finally added in like better layers for evasion, so you can put in deflection and evasion and armor are probably in the best place they've been in a very long time, like defensive layer wise. The unlimited support gems, which was a change in a previous season that allows you to actually use the same support gem multiple times, was a huge change that was absolutely amazing. The added overall like usability of a lot of the classes, like they kind of went back and they touched up on a lot of the abilities, like for instance the Gemling Legionnaire, which kind of got nerfed in a previous season because, well, one of his specialties was being able to use multiple support gems back in the original launch of the game. Well, they took that away from him when they gave the support gems to everybody. Well, the Gemling Legionnaire finally has his shine back because now he has additional like quality bonuses on abilities, which is really cool. And those additional quality bonuses allow him to get another effect, which is just really cool on the abilities, giving him, just massive amounts of increased damage, like utility, like reduced mana cost. As you can see, like reservation efficiency, which is pretty awesome. Essentially making the skills cost less spirits, and overall just really kind of like moved the Gemling Legionnaire back up into the upper echelons of the ascendancies. And there's also new ascendancies. The martial art ascendancy is really good. The spirit walker ascendancy is really good. And one thing I've noticed, and this is something that I talked about on stream a couple times, is that old ascendancies are bad. um, and all the new ascendancies, ascendant, I don't even know how to pronounce it. You know what? Let's just call them like, I need a ascendancies. Yeah, let's just here. I'm gonna copy and paste. Let's just do this. All the old ascendancy classes are bad, and all the new ones after I want to say Huntress. All the new ones that were introduced after Huntress are good. Like, and they keep getting better too. Like, it's like they're refining the formula. And this is kind of a really simple like way to explain this. So as they make new ascendancies, and each ascendancy that they make, it's like they're refining the overall formula of what makes an ascendancy special. When I first played Path of Exile 2 a long time ago, one of the things that I didn't really like was how samey every single ascendancy felt. Like almost every single ascendancy felt like the same exact thing with just a slightly different like seasoning, essentially. Like, oh, that's a beef with salt, and that's beef with pepper, and that's beef with paprika, and that's beef with old time seasoning. Like it was basically the same exact thing, just being served up to you in a different way. But as they got to the Huntress, I noticed that the ascendancy started to get better, and they started to get more unique, as I will say. And every ascendancy after the Huntress has been getting better and better and better. And I hope they go back and they actually touch up some of the older ascendancies that aren't really the greatest. Now, I will also say that Titan, which has been around for a long time, is a very good ascendancy. Specifically, like I do actually really enjoy Titan, but like a lot of the older ascendancies, like the hand, like the Chayula monk ascendancy, is really bad. It has been really bad for a while. I haven't tested the new changes to it, but like I can't bring myself to do it because every single time they update the Chayula ascendancy, I go back and test it, and it's still just as bad as it was before, if not even worse. Um, in fact, it feels like a net negative. It's like one of the worst ascendancies I've ever used. But yeah, I digress. The A lot of the ascendancies have kind of lost their luster because, well, like the better ascendancies have kind of taken their place, and I guess that's fine because the older ascendancies just need a touch up. Um, the campaign itself, they did a lot of work on the campaign. So let's take a quick talk about the campaign stuff that they changed. So one of the things that they did in the campaign was they made it so that you could actually have a little bit of a like an interesting clues of where you're going, right? So like in a lot of places, in a lot of games and a lot of areas, like when you go to a specific zone, there's a clue. There's a reason why you go there. You're following something. Like there's a pathway. In this game, there really wasn't that in the beginning. Like it was very unobvious which way you were going. In fact, a lot of the times you just wandered around aimlessly trying to look for what you were looking for. Well, they changed that. They kind of made it so that as you're walking around, you start to see hints and like keys of what exactly you're looking for, which lead you in the direction of what you're trying to get, right? So, like in the case of this early area with the counts, like sentencing area with where you got to get the runes and what's his face, the angel of death is like sitting there and he's hanging on his post, right? Well, as you're walking around, that's a rune tree, and the rune tree is glowing. It's got like its own magical powers and whatnot, right? Well, like you'll see as you're running around these glowing roots that kind of like lead toward the tree, giving you an indication of where the tree is. And the same thing goes for like the fungal area. The fungal area, you see fungus going toward the tree, and so forth and so on, kind of like giving you an indication of the correct direction. Here's one right here. So this is one of the glowy roots. That's a clue, essentially, not a direct arrow indicator on the map telling you exactly where to go, but just simply something that gives you an indication of where you're going. And they gave the entire campaign this treatment where basically they kind of made it so that if you actually paid attention to the clues of what's going on in like the atmosphere, the land, like the in some cases like in one of the areas, like when you're following the lava flow, which I believe is in the volcanic warrens. You basically follow the flow of the lava, and by following the flow of the lava, you'll always end up at the boss. You have to kind of pay attention to which way the lava's flowing, and then you just kind of go in the correct direction. In Act 1, when you're trying to get to the Red Veil is along the river. So as you're running around in the riverbank area, if you follow the river will always lead you to the Red Veil because you can clearly see on the map that the river leads to the Red Veil, right? These simple changes that they made to the campaign were actually very welcome. And they streamlined Act 3 a little bit too, which was actually really welcome as well, because Act 3 was kind of convoluted as well. They going to the Azok Bog and like running around that whole zone and trying to find everything. And they also kind of like did a little bit of a touch up on Matlin waterways, replaced the levers with pads, which it's better. I mean, it's not fixed, but it's better. Overall, I think Act 3 is in a much better place than it was before. And in general, like the entire campaign, which was already very enjoyable, I believe has become even more enjoyable. It's just like even better. And I think that most people who play Path of Exile 2 actually really enjoy the campaign. Like the campaign is a fun thing to go through. You get tons of stat points and skill points, and you get to test out your character there. They also made another change to the campaign, which was later. It wasn't a point 0.5 change. It was like a point 0.53, I think, or a 0.54. I can't remember. One of the changes that they made is that you don't have to be max level to put on a unique item anymore. So a lot of the unique items that were tied to a skill specifically. So if you looked at things like Life Sprig, Life Sprig was one of those things that has a skill on it, right? So when you look at Life Sprig, see it has a level 18 mana drain skill. Well, level 18 skills have a specific level requirement, and because of that specific level requirement of the skill, you would be unable to put on a Life Sprig on a low level character because of how they had set things up. Well, the thing is that now that's no longer the case. So when you put on a Life Sprig or any other like wand that has a skill on it, it will downgrade the skill appropriately to the character's level and not basically use the skill as a means to detract you from using the item. In other words, for campaign users who are having fun running through the campaign and you want to utilize things like Life Sprig or the Wicked Quill or, like the Sanguine Diviner that has Bone Blast on it and so forth and so on. And there's tons of uniques that have skills attached to them. The skill level is no longer a deterrent that will prevent you from putting on those uniques. And as long as the base level of the item is low enough, you can equip it regardless of what the skill level is, which means that campaign got a lot more fun because now you can go back and you can play with some of these crazy uniques that have skills on them, and you can actually level with them all the way through, which is really cool. So you can go buy yourself like a level 20 Life Sprig that has like the highest level Life Sprig that you can get on it, and then you can equip that at level 1. I'm not even kidding. You can equip it at level 1 and you can just wear that the entire way up, which is amazing. And that's just one of the cool changes that they made to the campaign. Overall, I think the campaign was already in a good place, but they decided that they wanted to touch on it further, and they did a good job. Moving on to the campaign. I say this because the developers themselves said that they wanted endgame mapping to feel like an extension of the campaign. That they understood that people actually did enjoy the campaign and that they didn't want people to get into the endgame mapping and feel like the mapping was like this completely different thing that, just kind of like wasn't fun, right? Well, I think they did a really good job. I did a video about like a beginner's guide to getting into endgame mapping, so I'm not going to dive into this like crazy amount. If you want to check out the the full endgame mapping video that I did, that is up on my channel right now, and you can see that for yourself. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. Yeah, so here it is right here. It's Beginner's Guide to Endgame Mapping, Path of Exile 2. Hasn't really got very many views, but whatever. I'm no stranger to content not getting views. In fact, when I first started, nobody watched any of my videos, and now I have 100,000 subscribers. So, so I'm going to briefly go over it. But if you want a full thing, I would suggest you check out the Beginner's Guide to Mapping. But basically, in a nutshell, to sum it up, and no fannying about, what they did was they made a quest line for every single end game activity. So there are currently what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 end game activities. Of course, there's a little bit more than that if you count some other things, but let's start with the main 6. So there is currently the end game activity for Ritual. Ritual is kind of like a gambling window where you basically just keep refreshing it and gambling and hoping for really good items in there. A lot of the times you don't get jack diddly, but it is what it is. There's an entire quest line around the Ritual. You get to fight the Bodak, and it's pretty neat. The Delirium, not my favorite at all. You can definitely make some good currency on Delirium, but I just really don't like the mechanics. The Simulacrum, which is the boss fighty area for this particular mechanic, is actually kind of cool. I don't really like the Delirium itself. The Bodak fight was the best fight you ever had. It was the worst fight I ever had. You must be a ranged spellcaster or a ranged bow or crossbow character, because it was the worst fight I ever had. Just tons of ground degen and just nastiness. And it was stupid. Breach has been really fun the entire season. I actually really like Breach, all of the mechanics of Breach. The Hive castles, the whole entire thing when it comes to Breach is amazing. Um, I like the not only the breach encounters now are much better because the unstable breaches can be stabilized, and you can basically kill all the monsters, and then you get rewarded for stabilizing the breach by getting bosses and like rare monsters. You can even get Zesht, Marshal Zest, Vrun Marshal of Zest will come out of the thing as well, which is really cool. Overall, like just really good mechanics. And then on top of that, they also added in the tree, which is where you can basically poop out items, which is pretty cool.
You've got some
Um,
goods in.
so if you go to the tree, and let me grab some hive blood before I go there, so I can show you what it's like. Every single quest line essentially has a hub. So you can see the hubs here. This is the Well of Souls. This is the Temple hub. This is the Breach hub right here, and so forth and so on. There's the Delirium hub. Basically, when you come here, there is a tree that you can actually like poop out items from, which is really cool. There's a lot of very special crafts that you could do, like only with the tree, like minion belts and caster rings and whatnot. You can basically make a Soj. It's pretty cool. But you put your womb gift in there, which you get while you're doing your runs, and you get to essentially just create items. In this particular case, I believe I'm set up to create minion items, hoping for that glorious +1 minion skill belt. And of course, you can also generate just currency, like catalysts, for instance. I have mine set up to generate catalysts. And there's rings, there's amulets, there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do with the Genesis tree. Absolutely amazing. It's a very fun way to reward you for diving deep into the breach mechanics. Moving on to the next one, we've got the Abyss. The Abyss is all around the undead and essentially like closing the undead abyss fractures that appear on the earth. I mean, you can clearly see like them on the map, which is one of the cool things they added. So if you look here, you see these like stitched up portions of the map. And yeah, like this is basically where I've closed the fractures. So as you do the maps, you'll close them. But like when you actually find this place, though, these are all open, and it's very obvious that the like undead monsters are rising to the surface of the world. Really cool mechanic, good money involved, very good for crafting. The quest line is pretty cool with Kulamak and going through that. And then moving on to the next one, we have the Expedition. Expedition is a brand new one. It's also kind of an old one. So basically, with Expedition, Expedition used to exist, but doesn't anymore. It kind of took away a lot of the stuff that Expedition had. They took away the Recombinator. They took away quite a few of like the mechanics for how Expedition worked, and they basically just kind of like completely reworked it. It is sort of the same as before, but not the same. It's a pretty cool mechanic, and then they added the tree on top of that. You can get like tons of freaking currency from it. There's a whole quest line involved, kind of like Indiana Jones style quest line where you're hunting down relics and looking for the runes and the information that you need, and then finally you find like the Triskelion flame, which is apparently the relic that you were hunting the entire time. It's pretty cool. In fact, you can clearly see that the expedition like points here are actually in the Triskelion flame, which is basically a 3-pointed star, and then they've got like some extra points too because they probably wanted to add some extra points. Then there's the temple. The temple is kind of like a build your own dungeon thing. There is a boss at the end. It's Adziri. She's got 4 boobies. She's pretty cool too. Very interesting. Like when I first encountered this, but it's not really my cup of tea. As you can see, I have no points in it because I've just avoided it entirely. Um, and then the Atlas tree, in the previous versions of the game, there's been a lot of ways to like generate Atlas, your Atlas points, and none of them were really good. Like when the game first started, there were like do a certain number of maps and we'll give you points, and then it turned into like do the corrupted zones and we'll give you points, and then it turned into like it never really was the greatest in terms of like building points. Now you can essentially build your points just by simply doing the castle, which is really cool. You have like a whole quest line that you go through to do the castle, and there are bosses. There is the Western Enigma Chamber and the Eastern Enigma Chamber, which are bosses that you have to fight. Once you fight those two, you get to fight the main boss at the Burning Monolith, which is the Arbiter of Ash. And then once you fight him, you get to fight two more bosses, which is the Patriarch Halls and the Matriarch Halls, which allows you to finally go up to the top of the tower, which is where you get to fight the Arbiter of Divinity. It's pretty cool stuff. Like the whole quest line leading up to it, you get to learn a lot about what's going on within the world, like what the castle is and why it exists. And then from there, like, what do you do? Well, there's tons of cool stuff that you can do. You can travel out throughout the world and look for these crazy, like, individual maps that have, like, insane modifiers on them. Like, contains three additional map bosses. You can look for the unique maps. This one has the map bosses possessed. There's also a bunch of unique maps that you can look for, like the megaliths, the untainted paradises, which give you tons of EXP. You can also look for more breach or abyss or like, but basically any of the mechanics that you're actually interested in, like going into. If you want to fight the boss multiple times, which you may want to because it's the easiest way to get all your Atlas points, you're going to have to look for more Patriarch Halls and Matriarch Halls, which look like this on the map. You can see there's one right here. And there's one right here, which you can get more boss mats, and you can basically go fight the boss again. And every time you fight the boss, you can basically clear out an entire zone in here and get more Atlas points. It's actually been a much more enjoyable end game. I've actually had fun going through it, whereas in previous seasons I didn't want to engage in end game. So like overall, I think that the campaign is now a success. They've done a good job. I do think that there's still some refinements that they can make to the campaign. Overall, like I think that the hubs themselves probably should be inside the castle. It's kind of odd for me to say because there's kind of like a dichotomy of what you want to do and what you know you have to do, and then like you not being able to do both things at the same time, right? So like let's say you want to engage in breach. Well, if you engage in breach, you're not building any points in the Atlas tree, right? So you're not going to actually build points by engaging in breach because breach is outside of the castle. On top of that, like you don't really get anything from any of the mechanics unless you actually go do the quest lines or at least start the quest lines, right? I think that it would be more interesting if you could start the quest lines inside the castle where it's obvious that you need to be, but I'm not exactly sure how they could address that. But overall, like I did feel like the campaign was just more fun, just a lot more fun. Um, on top of that, they also added in these crazy little side boss characters. So you got like Doriani, and you've got Hilda, and then you also have Jado, which I haven't activated Jado yet. But they basically allow you to modify your maps in various ways by giving yourself more revives, increasing the modifiers, irradiating the maps for you. And all of this has felt like really good. Like being able to customize your journey in a way that's more interesting to you has been just more fun. Also, like no matter what person you are, there's certain mechanics that you're not going to enjoy. Like I don't really enjoy Temple, and I don't really enjoy Delirium. I think that Breach is amazing, and I think Abyss is amazing. Expedition is fun, and I don't really particularly enjoy Ritual. But like, you don't have to do mechanics that you don't want to do anymore, right? So there was a time in the previous versions of the game where you kind of didn't have a choice. Like whether you wanted to do a mechanic or not, there would still be other mechanics on the map besides the ones that you were interested in, right? Well, the way that they have it set up now, and especially with the Doriani, which allows you to irradiate maps, you can basically irradiate an area, and then you can essentially just stack a specific thing on that map and only get that type of map, right? So if I go into my tablets, and let's say I look for breach tablets, right? And I were to pull out 3 breach tablets, and I go to any place in the zone and I click on one of these maps, right? If I put in 3 breach tablets into the list and I run a map with 3 breach tablets, there will only be breach in this map. And in this way, they've essentially allowed you to control exactly what the maps have on them instead of them being so randomized with a bunch of stuff that you're not interested in. Like, if you don't like Delirium, like I don't like Delirium, how many times when you load into a map have you been like, ew, Delirium? And like, because the mirror for the Delirium will be like right there at the spawn. Well, you don't have to see it anymore. Like if you run 3 delirium tablets, you're never going to see a delirium again. Or sorry, 3 breach tablets, you're never going to see delirium again. Like, and you can do this for anything. You can actually mix and match the tablets now, which is something that you couldn't do before as well. So, like for instance, let's say you really like breach and you really like abyss. Well, you could run 3 tablets, but instead of running 3 breach tablets, you could run like 1 abyss tablet and 2 breach tablets, and then you'll have essentially Abyss and Breach on the same map. You can even go 1-1-1. So, like, let's say there's 3 different mechanics that you're interested in. Like, maybe you really enjoy Ritual, maybe you really enjoy Breach, and maybe you really enjoy Abyss, and you want all 3 of them on your tablets, essentially, right? Well, you can do that as well. So you can have 1 Breach, 1 Abyss, and 1 Ritual, and you'll have all 3 mechanics on your maps. But guess what you won't have? You won't have Delirium because Delirium is not one of the tablets that you chose. And in this way, they've really kind of like upped the game on the end game mapping to make it much more fun in general. Like, just my personal opinion, I think that this is just amazing. Because I really, really enjoyed not having to do mechanics that I was not interested in doing, and I think that's their entire goal. Is their entire goal is to allow you to choose what mechanic you're interested in doing, and not force you to do mechanics that you're not interested in doing, which is pretty neat. Um, and then going even further than that, like the maps themselves just feel more fun. Things have been balanced much better now. I feel like I die a lot less to like random things. One of the things that I noticed in some of the dev talks is like Jonathan and Mark talking about how they have like a list of like what monsters and like what abilities are killing people the most, and they go through the process of checking those and trying to see why they're killing people. And it comes to find out a lot of the times that they say when they check this stuff that the like upper percentage of the most killing abilities or most killing monsters in the game are usually bugged in some way, shape, or form. And they end up fixing them. And over time, it seems like they've done a really good job curtailing a lot of the bugged monsters and getting the game back to like like not randomly getting one shot by things that you don't understand what's going on, right? Like, as if a monster's bugged and he's doing like 10 times normal damage or something under certain conditions, and you go up to fight him and he just like lays you down on the ground. It's not really something that you can account for as a player. It's just something that ends up happening and you die, right? Now, each one of these, I forgot to talk about these guys. Each one of these guys is actually leveled up by doing their specific mechanics, so it's another kind of like a quest line. Doriani wants you to go attack corrupted zones, so you need to clear corrupted nexuses, or nexis, or whatever the plural of that is. And once you clear those, you clear 4 of those, he basically gives you all your points. Hilda wants you to hunt a bunch of monsters. In fact, I still have yet to do Hilda's first quest, even. I think it's over here somewhere. Yeah, slay the great beast to earn Hilda's favor. And then Jado, I'm pretty sure Jado is actually these, which is the deadly map bosses. In fact, yeah, you can clearly see right there it says Jado's Spycraft. So once you do the mansions, these little vaults, you can essentially unlock Jado. Each particular like guy has his own quest line, and once you've completed them, you get access to all the buffs that those particular like I don't know, they call them end game mapping ascendancies. So I guess that's kind of the way to think about it, because it allows you to kind of curtail and point your character, your maps into what you want them to do, right? Like Doriani, I think is my personal favorite. I looked into the other ones and I wasn't too like incredibly impressed. But like he has things like 10% chance when completing a map to make nearby maps accessible, which makes the entire mapping process much less arduous because he'll just randomly activate maps around you, which makes it much easier for you to like progress. The maps are irradiated is absolutely insane because like previously you had to put an irradiated tablet in, and irradiated tablets are random, right? So if you put an irradiated tablet in, you get random modifiers. So like for instance, you would get delirium, or you would get like ritual or something maybe that you didn't want. But the cool thing is that with this, you can essentially irradiate every single map, and you can still get access to like your triple breaches or your triple abysses or whatever it is you're trying to do. Because previously, if you did triple abysses, you wouldn't get the +1 level that irradiated provides. So you would have a lower level map, which was not good. He does all sorts of cool things like more revivals. He gives you like one more revival on your maps. He increases the modifiers of the maps. He also can give you like a giant explosive or turn strong boxes into mechanical guardians. There's a bunch of crazy stuff that you can get here. And then the Hilda seems to be more around hunting bosses, and Jado is, I believe, around finding unique items. Specifically, he's more of like a treasure hunter sort of a character that's specifically looking for uniques. In fact, I think a lot of people have been using Jado for like pinnacle bosses to try and get those extra drop chances for the unique items that they're like really gunning for. Expedition is kind of like its own thing off into the distance where you actually are like on a ship, like going island to island and actually like finding like treasure. It's actually kind of neat. There's expeditions and there's grand expeditions and they're both pretty cool. Overall, the campaign has really kind of sucked me in this season, and the end game has really kind of sucked me in this season. Like, I really like the changes they did to the campaign. The campaign is still just as fun to go through as it was before, but the end game has also been very fun to go through and has honestly felt like an extension of the campaign. They also added in the challenge window. So the challenge window essentially gives you like a list of challenges that you can go through, and you get access to like a cosmetic set. But it's kind of a cool way to like tick off the boxes and like say, okay, I found I've done everything essentially, right? Like one of them is to do all your Atlas points. Another one is to kill the three major bosses that were added this season, which is the Vessel of Kulamak at full strength, the Bodak, and the Tang Mazu. Another one is to do all the Ascendancy trials. There's also the one where you basically get to kill all the campaign bosses. And then like the Rune Seeker, this has to do with the expedition because there's basically each expedition has the runes in it, so you can get lots of cool stuff. Um, I'm kind of blown away with this season. I made my original character, which is a Fangs of the Frost character. I also made a block bow character with this new block bow that they added, which I should talk about as well is the upgrading uniques. So the upgrading of uniques. This is actually a big thing that they added in this season, which basically using the Verisium anvil, you can actually upgrade a unique into a higher version. So you put the item in here, and once you put the item in here, you can upgrade it to a Rune Mastered version, which I already actually have the Rune Mastered Legion Strides, which it gave it movement speed. And I'm using the Rune Mastered Ironbound Bow, which increased the damage. It was pretty nice. In fact, you can take just about any Ezomite or Kalgurin unique, and you can throw it in there and see if you can upgrade it. I believe Silver Tongue can be upgraded. Let me put it in there and show you what it looks like. No, Silver Tongue cannot be upgraded. Quill Rain. I think Quill Rain can be upgraded. Wait, no, this one's corrupted, so no, you can't. You can't upgrade corrupted items. That is unfortunate. There's probably a pair of Legion Strides in here I can use, or any other pair of booties. Like here's some Bushwhacks. And when you put them in there, you get to preview the new version and essentially see what has been upgraded and what hasn't. Sometimes it has fundamental changes. Sometimes all it does is add Runic Ward and upgrade the evasion by a little bit. A lot of the times it will upgrade the base. In fact, some of them can actually be upgraded twice, which is pretty cool. So, like, for instance, some of the weapons and whatnot have actually two upgrades that you can do to them. One in particular is the spear. There's a couple Ezomite spears. Well, the Tangle Tongue can be upgraded too. That one's pretty good. But one of the ones I used early on actually could be upgraded twice into a much higher form, and it's actually kind of a crazy one. What do I got in my shop?
It's your lucky day.
Oh, my 11 divs. Okay. It's always nice to come home to 11 divs. In the general though, the upgrading of the uniques has made a lot of the uniques more useful. And also some of the newer uniques have been really fun to play around with, like this one particularly that builds damage based on block chance and also gives the arrows the ability to come back, which is pretty cool. Um, I built a whole character around this and had fun with it. It's a strong bow. It also is only level 11, so you can literally use this at level 11 when you first start, and then you can actually level up your whole character with this. It's kind of a crazy leveling bow. Um, I've also made several other characters, like for instance, a character entirely designed around Bone Cage, which was actually kind of really fun and very well set up. I made a resonating shield character, completely built around resonating shield, and he kind of just like absolutely demolishes. Then I also decided to make a infinite lances character around like the glacial lance, which was really cool. And then I also made an attack speed character. Specifically, I just wanted to try and see like how fast I could make an attack speed character go, and kind of a crazy level of attack speed actually. This isn't even like the maximum attack speed. It's not even my final form. You can really hit some absolutely crazy attack speed numbers with like specific equipment, and the werewolf is probably one of the more fun melee characters too. So just absolutely insane. I've been having tons of fun playing around with all sorts of things on the new patches. One of the things that's really grabbed my attention the most is the Gemling Legionnaire's additional quality benefits for skills. So the Gemling Legionnaire basically has the ability to get an extra quality benefit, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but an extra quality benefit for essentially every single that's breach, right? Every single skill. So every single skill in the game, with some exceptions, has an extra quality bonus, right? So like you can just sit there for hours just looking at them. Like for instance, tornado. Let's put tornado on my bar real quick just for fun, right? You can't see the extra quality bonus unless you actually equip it. Which is kind of unfortunate. But as you can see here, it says +2 limit to tornadoes. So the extra quality bonus that the Jumbling Legionnaire gets for tornado is just more tornadoes. And you can sit there and play around with tons of abilities. Like, let me go ahead and just pull out a bunch of abilities and just start plopping them in. So we've got Entangle is +4 to fissure limits. We've got Comet, comes with the 52% increased damage with hits against frozen enemies, which is pretty good. So that's a huge benefit for frozen ability. Frost Darts gets +2 additional forks. The companions get more minion attack speed, 20% more minion attack speed, which is pretty cool. Eye of Winter gets projectiles have 65% chance to return to you, which is actually really neat. They actually do return to you. I was playing around with it and just like messing around with the return. It doesn't happen every single time, of course, but maybe if you stacked enough quality, you could potentially force it to be almost every single time. But when it does return to you, it's kind of funny to watch the
Need more time.
to watch it just like come back. It goes like all the way across the room though before it comes back, so it'll like stop somewhere over there and then it'll just start coming back. I don't know exactly know why 65% chance still equates to not coming back all the time, but there you go. It bounced that time. Okay. I think it might have to actually hit something for it to come back. Is that what it is? Yeah, it actually has to hit something. So I was firing it off into the distance of nowhere, which is actually a very cool, a very interesting way to add on an additional quality bonus onto the skill. It's actually really neat. And everything has this. Like I was sitting there going through like tons of abilities and just looking at the bonuses, like chance not to remove charges on use. So this is actually really crazy. When you're dealing with a lot of these abilities, like specifically ones that have charges on them, a lot of these abilities can actually get to the point where they're almost never removing charges. In fact, it's actually not that difficult to reach 100% chance not to remove charges, which essentially means that you can build like power charges, frenzy charges, endurance charges, and a lot of these abilities on the Jumbling Legionnaire can get to the point where they're just not pulling the charge. So you have infinite frenzy charges or infinite endurance charges or infinite power charges. It's actually a really cool way to build characters. But overall, the Gemling Legionnaire is definitely one of the more interesting characters for me this season because of all the crazy ways that the skills have changed, giving you essentially a lot of different ways to look at builds, which is pretty neat. And then on top of that, they also added in the Kalguran skills. So the Kalguran skills are absolutely nutty. And if you have been sleeping on the Kalguran skills, I don't know what to tell you. There's so many really fun Kalguran skills. Um, like, for instance, they added an ice volcano. It's called Fragments of the Past. That one's really cool. It's literally just the fire volcano, but it's ice. And instead of shooting out fire, it shoots out ice explosions, which is pretty dang neat. And you can build a whole character around Fragments of the Past as well. And lo and behold, if you look, yep, the Calgarin skills also get extra benefits. So we get duration 0.3 extra seconds. For quality, it goes up to like 1 second. Of course, you can stack past that. There's also things like Grim Pillars, which are pretty darn cool. Grim Pillars can be destroyed, and they explode. They pop up all over the place. A lot of people have been using Grim Pillars tied together with totems. Just absolutely fun stuff. The main thing about these Calguran skills that you have to understand is that unlike regular skills that are tied to a specific thing, like for instance, if I wanted to go and I wanted to use something like a mace skill, right? Like if I wanted to use Bone Shatter, well, like I can't use Bone Shatter because it's an incorrect weapon type. A lot of skills are tied to a weapon, or they're tied to a shield type, or they're tied to something specific, and it's very difficult to be able to use every single ability, right? Well, the Calguran skills are not tied to anything. So you can use them on whatever characters you want to use them on whatever builds you want to use them on, which makes them very universal and very fun to like put into your character. I'm currently using on this build, I'm using Refutation, which is absolutely insane. It's a buff that basically allows you to parry anything that you block, and it's really, really good. It's just really good. In general, the parry of debuff gives you extra damage, and you can also utilize the parry debuff for skills. I mean, I have an entire character essentially built around this parry buff, but on top of that, I can also just tap Refutation and get even more parry debuffs to utilize my skill with, which allows me to pretty much wipe entire screens, which is really cool. I'm also building into parry but debuff magnitude, so like instead of 50% more attack damage, I'm getting 118% more attack damage, which is pretty beast. Um, I'm trying to think like they also added some like trade window stuff, so you can actually price check things. So if you were to Alt click on an item, you can try and price check it. It's a little wonky and it needs some work, and hopefully they do some patching on it because it's just not quite as good as it could be. It tries to be too specific on things, and some of the stuff it just doesn't like get correct at all, unfortunately, because it ends up running into a problem of like being too hyper specific. I've kind of gotten a handle on the process of price checking with this tool. Like there's some things that you have to remove, like you need to remove the sockets because not everything is socketed. Usually you want to rip out the quality and take out the item type as well. Down here, like some of the things that it messes up are, things like the damage numbers. The damage numbers are wrong. So if you price check an item, like say you price check a ring, it'll put the damage numbers in there exactly as they're written, which is not correct. So for some reason or another, the game uses average damage, not damage like the actual damage that's written. So if you want to actually search for something that has the same damage as your ring, or you want to like price check your ring, you would have to do this, which is really easy. You just do 27 plus 41 divided by 2, which gives you 34. So you're going to delete this and you're going to put in 34. And then we're going to take the cold damage and do the same thing. So that's 20 plus 34. And then divided by 2, which is 27. And delete the maximum. And in general, like if you do this kind of stuff, you can sort of get it right. Take out the requirements. Let's also take out the ring type, and let's hit search. Still nothing. So let's pull out the dexterity because that's not important. And the crafted mod probably needs to be yanked out too. Still not finding anything, are we? Let's pull out the upper numbers on a bunch of these because the upper numbers can mess with it as well. And we still not getting nothing. Let's take out the implicit. There we go. And let's add back in the increased attack speed. Add back in the desecration. Nope, we'll have to leave the desecration out. We'll have to add in pseudo chaos resistance and then put in 15 because this is a desecrated mod. So let's just take that down to 10. Okay, so the closest ring that we can find to ours is 88 divines. Okay, no big deal. Let's take out the resistance as well. So as you can see, my ring's pretty expensive. Like the closest match with the cheapest price that's not quite the same as my ring is 30 divs. And then it just kind of scales up from there. It's because this is a pretty smexy ring. It's got attack speed. It's got all sorts of beautiful damage modifiers on it. In fact, yeah, it's one of my best rings. I was thinking about actually mirroring this ring to the other side and just like not worrying about the other ring. Um, what else is there to talk about this season? Um, they added some new NPCs. You can see there's Hilda and there's Pharaoh. Pharaoh's to do with the rune stuff, and Hilda is to do with the hunting beasts. Um, the Vrisium Anvil is new, of course, and I went over it briefly. But not only can you upgrade items, but there's also gambles in here. So it's not always a matter of getting the same thing is the problem. In fact, there is a unique amulet. There's a couple different items actually, but there are items in the game that actually roll different things when you upgrade them in here. Let me see if I can pull up the particular amulet here. So I was actually messing around with some of these items, and that's when I found out that there were multiple different versions of them. So if you go to like amulets, for instance, what you'll find is there is a new amulet. It's a cold amulet. It's called Eventide Petals, I believe. Yeah, Eventide Petals. Eventide Petals is a veridical chain. But the cool thing about this is it can be upgraded with a couple different options. And if we go to the amulets section, like the base amulets, what you'll see down at the bottom here is there is a couple different versions of the amulets. Where? Yeah, here it is. All right, so this one here has the veridical chain, right? So this upgrade option with the rune master gives 15 to 20% increased maximum runic ward. There's another potential option that you can get, which is +1 to 2 cold skills and 30 to 40 maximum runic ward. And then there's another option that you can get, which is 30 to 40 maximum runic ward and 2 to 3 maximum cold resistance. In other words, upgrading this unique item has 3 different variable outputs, and one of them, as you can see, with the +2 cold skills, is definitely a lot better than the other two. And a lot of items in the game that are upgradable actually do have multiple outputs, which means that there are different options that you can potentially upgrade them to, giving you more choices. I was actually spent like a whole day looking at the options for the unique items and like how they upgrade because it was pretty cool. Stuff like the Olro Vasra, like when you put that in there, I believe you can upgrade that one. And it has a question mark. The question mark, I believe, is specifically for the items that you don't know what they're going to be, right? These are the ones that have variable outputs. Well, this particular one is a Torment Club, so if we go to the list here, we can take a look at the clubs. So let's go to one-handed maces, and let's go to the one-handed mace bases, and then we're going to scroll down to the Rune Forged Torment Club. Specifically, is what we're going to be looking for. Rune Forged Torment Club is. Let's just type in up here Torment. All right, so there we go. So we've got our Rune Master Torment Club, and there's 6 of them because there's actually 2 different Torment Clubs. There's 2 different unique items, and as you can see, there's different options for each one. One of them has chaining lightning. One of them has increased lightning damage. One of them has base cold damage, and then 100% of lightning damage is converted to cold, and so forth and so on. So basically, you can see that there's 3 options for this particular club, and there's also another club. I believe it's the Mjolnir one, the one that's like more like Thor's hammer, I believe, is also a torment club, and that one has 3 output options as well, which is pretty cool. Basically, what they've done is they've kind of added into the game, in a way, the old Diablo 2 upgrading system. Like, everybody was kind of talking about it, and I'm like, that's D2 upgrading. And I mean, that's great. It is great that they finally added D2 upgrading into the game because it allows the uniques to be more useful. In a lot of cases, if you're trying to upgrade a specific item, like, it helps out tremendously to be able to upgrade that item into a higher base type. Let me see if I can do one of these upgrades for you here right now. We need a specific dojang. It's probably the one with the highest physical DPS, I would assume. No, not Ed series. Which one am I thinking of? It's the iron. I think it's iron grasp. Yeah, no, not iron grasp. Iron something. This is the one I know for a fact upgrades 2 times, not just once. It upgrades twice. Nasa dos. And I don't remember the name of it, so let's just go look it up real quick. It's easier that way. So we'll go to spears. And we're looking for Tyranny's Grip Iron Head Spear. Oh, I had the iron right. So Tyranny's Grip Iron Head Spear. There we go. And since we're going to upgrade it, let's look for a good one. So we're going to look for one that has not been corrupted, because we can't upgrade corrupted ones. We're going to copy the stats, and one thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for one that has high physical damage. So cap on the physical damage percentage is 200. And then... Did I hit the wrong one? Wait. What did I do? Increased physical damage. Let's put like 190 in. Why does that not work? That's very strange. It's very strange indeed. We got the reduced attack speed we need to worry about too. We need the lowest reduced attack speed that we can get, which is, I believe it's 10. Is there like none on here that have low reduced attack speed? Well, it's okay. Let's just grab one and we'll just upgrade it. It doesn't really matter. I'll just waste it. Those are perfect exalts. What the hell? What the hell? No, I'm not paying 3 perfect exalts. You can suck it. I'll pay 20 exalts. That's what I'm gonna pay. 3 perfect exalts. That's some money right there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade this real quick and show you how the process works. So you can see, like, essentially that it's the same as Diablo 2 upgrading. One of the things about the way that this functions is essentially what it's doing is it's giving you a different base type, is what it seems like. So right now it starts out as an Iron Head Spear, and it has relatively low damage. Let's go ahead and juice it real quick too. Why not? Let's give it a little bit of juice before we upgrade it, because that's usually how you're supposed to do it. Gotta juice it. All right. And we throw this in here, and it tells us what we need. We need 225 Verisium, and we need Medved's Crest Circle. And as you can see, it upgrades the damage like considerably. It goes from an Iron Head Spear to a Rune Forged Iron Head Spear, which is essentially 1 tier higher. And the damage goes from 30 to 40 to 134 to 181, which is a pretty massive jump. Then when we upgrade that one, we get another upgrade. So you can upgrade the Rune Forged version to the Rune Mastered version. Now, if this doesn't make any sense, it should, because in Diablo 2, the order is normal to exceptional to elite, right? And the order in this game is normal to, what was it? Rune Forged to Rune Mastered, right? No difference whatsoever at all from Diablo 2. You're literally taking a normal unique item, upgrading it to a exceptional unique item, and then you're taking the exceptional unique item and upgrading it to the elite unique item. It's actually a pretty cool system. And of course, you need the specific materials, which is no different than Diablo 2. You need the specific runes and gems, and then you get the final version, which is the Rune Mastered version. As you can see, it has 316 to 427 damage, which is a lot higher than the original 30 to 40 damage, allowing you to basically take a low level unique and turn it into a high level item that you can utilize on your character. This one actually has a lot of usefulness this season because, believe it or not, the it has one of the highest like damage of the all the items, and the Spirit Walker specifically has a passive that transfers the damage of the weapon to your minions, and it doesn't care about the attack speed of the weapon. It only cares about the damage of the weapon. And even though the DPS on this weapon is low because of the reduced attack speed on it, the actual physical damage on the weapon is extremely high. And in fact, if you quality it, put a iron rune in there, you corrupt it and get an extra socket, put another iron rune in there, it can actually get like absolutely crazy in terms of damage output, especially for the Spirit Walker build. And there you go. I got an extra 18% increase to. What did I get? I got nothing. No, I got nothing. So in this particular case, like this is just one of many uniques that you can now utilize across the board. I kind of wish they would give this touch to just about everything, but some uniques are just simply being upgraded the damage, so they're just simply tiering up the base type, similar to Diablo 2, and then other uniques, as I showed you earlier, are actually randomizing the effects or adding new modifiers entirely to the items, which is pretty cool. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with the recent Anvil, like a lot of the new stuff that they've added this season, and it's got a big thumbs up for me. I spent about like an entire month playing the point 5 update, and I finally kind of like broke down and decided that I needed to like make some videos. But other than that, like I've been having a blast. I think I've done just about everything there is to do, and honestly, like I'm still making characters. I still got ideas on stuff that I want to do, like characters I want to design. There's still other characters that I want to play too, and like I don't know, like a lot of them have to do with the Gemling Legionnaire, and I do have a Gemling Legionnaire which is leveled up, which I could potentially start doing testing on. So that might be my next step, is literally just play around one of the Gemling Legionnaire, try different builds, and like mess around with all the different stuff that they've added. Another cool thing that they added this season is the split personality gems. The split personality gems allow you to start from a different starting location. So in previous seasons, when you picked a character, you kind of just were stuck with whatever your character started as, right? There's multiple starting locations. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's multiple classes. And depending on what class you choose, you start at different locations. Well, the thing is that this season they've added these split personality gems, and the split personality gems essentially allow you to start from different locations. So in this particular case, can allocate passive skills from the mercenary starting point. You can also find ones that activate from like the sorceress or the oracle, you know, well, the druid essentially. Like you can start from a lot of different places. And if I just type in can allocate passive skills from there you go. So we've got the mercenary, the templar, the ranger, the warrior, the shadows, and the sorceresses. So as you can see, there's a lot of different potential options here for you to like choose and start your character from different locations, and they're not even that expensive. And what this has done is it's really opened up more options in terms of how you can set up your character. Like if you'd like to do a Gemling Legionnaire but you want to do a spellcasting Gemling Legionnaire, well, now you can just simply get the appropriate gem and start over here. Or if you want to do like a monk but you want to do like a werewolf monk or something, and like all the werewolf stuff is over here, well then you can literally just pick your monk ascendancy and then use the split personality gem to hop over. It's making it a lot easier to build characters and to actually get around the map than it was before, and it's making the ascendancies a lot less restrictive. The Titan, for instance, which is one of the more powerful ascendancies because he has the ability to increase the passives of essentially all the small passives on the board. And I do have a Titan around here somewhere. I'm sure I've got a Titan. That's a Warbringer, Chronomancer, Deadeye, Invoker, Stormweaver. Where's my Titan at? Mr. Titan, bring me a Titan. There he is. This league is ended. You cannot create characters anymore. Wait, what? Does he needs to be migrated or something? That's weird. I think he was in like the Stalathon League. I was completely unaware that. Yeah, he's in the Stalathon League. Is the Stalathon League not over yet? Interesting. The individual like micro leagues that they put out are pretty cool. I've participated in two of the private leagues so far, and I'm pretty excited. Apparently, there's supposed to be another private league coming up, so that could be interesting as well. But the Titan has a specific passive. I guess I can't log into him. But basically, it just increases the effectiveness of all small nodes and makes him extremely powerful for increasing passives on the board that are otherwise limited. Like, for instance, he works really good with the Thorns build because there's not very many Thorns passives on the actual passive tray. So if you're trying to increase the Thorns passives, one of the best ways to do that is to grab the Titan. Well, now you can grab the Titan and get those benefits, and then just like go over here and do whatever you want to do, like on the absolute other side of the tree, which has opened up a lot of really fun ways to build characters. The Gemling, for instance, with all of his crazy bonuses, like wouldn't be as powerful if you couldn't just simply hop to the other side of the board and pretend to be a sorceress, right? Like, getting access to some of these cool benefits on the spells, like say the Comet bonus, which gives you, a huge amount of increased damage to frozen targets, like wouldn't really matter if you couldn't go over to the spell side of the tree and actually get access to the spell stuff you needed to make the build work. Overall, I've just had lots of fun. I feel like I could talk for hours on this season, but if you haven't had fun with Path of Exile 2 in the previous seasons, all I can say is that this season is definitely worth giving a try. Um, Huge improvements to the game overall. The game feels better. It plays better. The campaign is more fun. The end game is more fun. The freaking crafting system has gotten more fun. The Verisium Anvil has made the uniques more useful and more fun. I'm actually building more characters around the uniques. You can use the uniques at lower levels. And you can actually take those uniques and level with them all the way to the end without having to buy multiple versions. There's tons of ways that you can like strip unique powers off and you can actually utilize them on items. One of the ways is one of the new currencies that essentially allows you to just like rip a unique item off of or power off of an item. I can't remember which one it is actually, but basically it just allows you to take a unique item and turn it into a gem or a rune essentially that you can then socket into another piece of equipment, which is actually pretty cool too because not only can you upgrade the uniques now and make them more useful, not only can you make the uniques more useful by just simply being able to use them at lower levels, but they've also added in the ability to essentially turn the unique power into a rune, which you can then socket into a piece of equipment, which makes the uniques even more useful, essentially allowing you to utilize them a third way in your build, right? Let me know what you guys think about the new season. Let me know what you guys think about the patches. They've actually come out with multiple patches. Like there was the .5 patch, then there was the .51, then there was the .52, and then there was the .53, and then there was the .54, and then there was the .54b. And they've actually been steadily adding tons of stuff into the game with each patch. Like the expedition, this expedition wheel was added like mid-season. Which is crazy. Like we were thinking it was going to take several patches before they got to the expedition wheel, but no, they added the expedition wheel like mid-season, which was pretty darn cool. They also expanded the Atlas tree several times during the season, and more. I'm pretty impressed. The future of Path of Exile 2 is looking bright. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button if you enjoy the content, and keep watching.